What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Dag Life podcast here at the Dean Aguilar Group, where we talk about everything real estate related and beyond with all the guests on our show. Today's very special guest, another incredible wife, mother, and realtor on our Dean Aguilar Group family, Miss Crystal Hall.
Hi, friends.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm better now that you're here. I appreciate you for joining me.
Oh, you're sweet.
So, obviously, your first time on the show. Super excited to have you, and obviously having with you being one of the ballers on the team, excited to have this conversation and learn a little bit more about Crystal's journey in real estate and life itself. So, tell us a little bit about how long you've been in real estate and what your transition was like from what you were doing prior.
Ooh, okay. So, I started out. In my real estate journey started out when I was 21.
Okay.
I bought my first house using a VA loan.
Nice.
Out here in San Diego. So, I mean, it was bottom of the market, 2009. Mm-hmm. Everybody dreams of it. I was right there. But I just got hooked on real estate. So, ever since then, I just, I wanted to do the investment things and like all of that. I had some friends that were doing that as well. So I got into that side of it. And then I decided around 2016, like I wanted to get licensed, so that I didn't have to bug realtors. Like I realized that there wasn't a lot of them that knew like what I was trying to do.
Right.
So I saw that there was an opportunity there for that. But then once I actually got rolling into it, I was like, oh man, like I could do this as a career.
Loved it.
So I just went full in. About 2017, I got on a team, super small team, but old seasoned agents like that had been in the industry 27 years and 16 years.
Yeah.
So
and they always made sure everyone knew, probably.
No.
Okay, good.
But they like nobody bugged them because they were like, like I'm here to work, like don't talk to me. They were that kind. It's like okay. Us here at the office at DAG, we're always like, what are you doing? Oh my God. Like,
yep, little unorthodox and different.
Yeah, but we're all like very, like just a talkative bunch. Right. Where they were kind of like, I'm just here to grind.
Yep.
And they were like, big heavy listing agents for the banks back in the REO days.
Okay.
And that's what I started doing. So I was doing like the back end of like BPOs, like broker price opinions, if you don't know what those are.
Not everyone does.
But so like basically appraisals for the banks. And then when they were ready to, foreclose and like list the house, like we got the listing. So I just, picked up everything that was, getting dropped. I was doing all the open houses. I was answering the phones. I was doing everything as if, like these are all my listings. Yeah. So I was, I was kind of like thrown into the deep end, like that way.
Sink or swim. That's how you.
Yeah, and so it gave me an opportunity to do like my first year. I did 20 deals, and then I just kind of. It was up north in like LA County, and so I didn't want to stay there because I hated the desert. So,
what part are we talking? Like where?
Palmdale.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my hometown.
Represent
the hood.
Okay. There you go.
But like. I was doing really good in real estate and I loved, I was at Keller Williams at the time. Mm-hmm. I loved the culture that I was in there, but I didn't want to grow my business in somewhere that I knew I didn't want to be long term.
Right.
And I wish I never would have left San Diego. Like I sold my house out here in 2014 and bought up there. I was able to get like a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house for like $195,000.
Your first house in San Diego?
No. Okay. So my first house in San Diego was like $225. Okay. And it was in Spring Valley. I was able to sell that for like $350. And at the time, like by then I'm like, I don't know, 25. And I'm like, I'm rich.
I'm rich, bitch.
Woo! Like, yeah. But so we just decided like, okay, well, we're gonna go up there, buy a house. And I was able to get like a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house for $195,000. So yeah, my mortgage was like $1,200. Yeah. So it seemed worth it, but then it's like, it's the desert.
What's the trade-off, right? Of course.
There's nothing there. Mm-hmm. Like you can go to the movies. It's so hot in summer. It's like 110 degrees, 115 degrees. Ugh. LA is like an hour away, but it's like you still don't different. Go. Yeah.
I hear you, and I spent 3 years in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, so I totally get the desert heat. I moved there from Jersey as a pit stop just to get here. So obviously for me, it was really just kind of getting into California.
Yeah.
So long journey, right? You started in the game early, started young. You know exactly the path you wanted to take. What would you say was the hardest transition for you from what were you doing prior to real estate?
So my background was in the service industry, like
Okay.
restaurants and things like
Right,
that.
hospitality.
I did fine dining downtown in the Gaslamp district
Nice.
when I was like in my early 20s.
Okay.
And then
Anywhere that's still open.
yeah, Lou and Mickey's.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right
shout out
across
Lou
the
and
street from
Mickey's.
the Hard Rock
Yep.
and the convention center. So like Comic-Con, you just see the wave come across the
It's
street.
madness.
Yeah.
But that tip money, though.
Oh yeah, especially like just walking home with that much cash at night.
For sure.
And when you're that age, it's like.
I'm rich, bitch.
But I mean, that got old really quick.
Right,
so
of course. Always does.
yeah, and but then like my ex-husband was getting stationed in Hawaii for shore duty,
Mhm.
so it was like, all right, well, 3-year vacation, like that's not bad. So by this point though, we had my son James. He was 6 months old,
Mm-hmm.
and like I was just staying at home. It just was the most viable thing to do.
This was in Hawaii or here?
Yeah, so well, my ex-husband was on deployment when he was born.
Got it.
So he came back when he was about 4 months old,
Okay.
and then 2 months later we moved.
Okay.
So,
nice.
yeah.
Spent a few years in Hawaii.
Yeah,
Love
and just
that.
chilled there.
Yeah.
My daughter was born there, so
That's great.
loved it. It was just a vibe. Like
Just a vibe.
there's something about Hawaii. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know. There's like this energy that it's like it doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
if it doesn't get done today, it'll get done tomorrow. Like,
Never been. Obviously, it's something that's on the list for me. Definitely go check it out. But
Yeah.
obviously, it's something that I'll tackle down the road. So with your transition from hospitality to real estate, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of us, not only here, but within the industry that come from hospitality or real estate, myself
sure.
included. And I think I know for a fact, when you take that consumer friendly approach and it's all about the people and the relationships,
Yeah.
it's a very easy transition. It's
It
still challenging.
So is.
It's still challenging at times, especially to get started if you don't have the right people or right systems, processes, and support.
Mhm.
What was the biggest challenge for you making the transition?
honestly, I feel like the service industry of restaurant hospitality set me up so well for real estate because of that. Like you deal with people from all walks of life
Mhm.
that are coming from different like economic backgrounds, and like their goals are all different.
Right.
But they're all at different stages of the game. So like, when you're starting a table, this one needs drinks, that one needs ranch over there, this one's closing out their ticket. And real estate's kind of like that same way if you're going to be able to do it in like a,
Very systematic approach.
in a cyclical type of thing, because this one's closing, you're showing property to this one needs listing photos done, this one needs, like there's a lot of different things that all need to get done.
Mhm.
And so that part was easy for me, like to kind of do that part. But I think the hardest thing for just about everybody when you start into real estate is, setting up your day right.
Right.
Because
Having a routine, having a process.
yeah.
Yep.
It's so easy that now that there's not somebody, like, there's no, like, you're on the clock, you're off the clock.
Right.
Like, you have to,
You
have
gotta
to set
manage
your
that
own.
shit yourself.
Yeah, you have to set up your own time, and you have to find out what's efficient for you, because there's like people that you need to follow up with that you've had conversations with, and then there's people that are more seriously like in transaction, and there's all these things. So
Right.
the
We
systems and processes,
100%,
for sure.
right?
And I think that's one thing we can all agree that we coach and preach from the rooftops on the daily, right? Is
Mhm.
show us your systems, your processes, your calendar will show you your results. And at the end of the day, there's the ones like us that have all those things in place now, and it obviously took some
Mhm.
time to get there, that are obviously producing or succeeding or being, longevity play. Then there's some of those that struggle with it, right? So obviously it's not the easiest thing to get done.
Yeah.
What was the process like for you to finally get that kind of approach in place?
Well, like I started out like so busy
Mhm.
because I was kind of transaction coordinating and like doing all these things for the listings and then doing my own thing that
Right.
there was no way for me to not structure my day.
Of course.
So, and like now that I mentor new agents, I teach them exactly the way that I had my day structured. You need to have at least 2 hours of your day just devoted to working on your business.
Mhm.
And on your business, especially when you're new, is like setting up all your systems, learning all your, like your CRM, your things that you need in order to run your business, your trainings, everything that you can do to better yourself. And everybody needs a different amount of skill set. It really, really depends on where you came from before you started this industry,
Right.
on what you're going to need. Because like if you were in sales, you already have sales skills. if you're in marketing, you have marketing skills.
Right, and I think
Like-
it's important to point out too that everybody learns differently.
Yeah.
So when it comes from a leadership or mentorship role, which you've taken on incredibly well, and obviously it shows with the people that are producing on you from your mentorship.
I love
So,
them all.
Golf clap, yeah, for you there is you need to learn how to train everyone differently because
Yeah.
everyone learns differently and everyone takes leadership a different way.
Yeah.
And
So-
everybody needs something different.
100%.
You know, like some people they're just such a blank slate and they came into this industry not really knowing like anything about any of it. And some of them are like, boom,
And it's
let's
just
go.
It's just like clients.
Yeah.
Every client needs something different. The first time buyer, the
Mhm.
10th time buyer, the investor that just cares about numbers,
Yeah.
the seller that
The
just cares about their bottom.
1031. Yeah.
Everything, right?
Right.
I think every day in real estate we all know that every single day is different. Every
Yeah.
client's different, every transaction is different.
Totally.
So
totally.
definitely something we can agree on, right? So
Yeah.
looking at where you're at in your journey right now, right? With how far you've come, everything you've learned, continuously
Mm-hmm.
learning in a growth mindset. What are some things that you're super like over the top excited about for the rest of 2024 and kind of beyond?
My goals for like 2024 and beyond is really just giving into my my little team, my little pod of all my mentees.
yeah, just
Like,
tapping
that's
into
what-
that nurtureship role.
Yeah. So and I've done a lot of that already,
Mhm.
but I want them to feel like set up and succeeding in the industry. But I also, you know, I will always be here to service like all of the clients that I've had in the past, and you know the ones that have come to me through my, you know, the people that know and love me and
Right.
all of that. So I'm always going to be here for that. But I'm at a point where I'm like, the broker type of role, is that more of like where I want to go with things?
Right.
But that's kind of more like probably 2025
Okay.
goal, like that kind of thing. But
I
Yeah.
love that, and it's funny. It's funny because when we started the mentorship program a couple years ago, how long you been with the team now?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. So
Yeah.
when we started the mentorship program, there's only a few of us in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was at that point heading towards the end of 2022, early 2023, where I was like, okay, cool, full on mentorship, full on team growth, full on XYZ,
Mm-hmm.
less transaction. And I kind of transitioned to kind of do it all at the same time now.
Yeah.
You've taken on the role to a level where we see the growth in everyone. We see how amazing it is. We see how important it is to have that one voice that kind of helps everyone from that mentorship perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about the importance for realtors getting into the real estate industry on what that kind of mentorship is tailored towards and why it's important for somebody like that to be in that position to really succeed.
I am a huge like proponent of us being like professionals in the industry.
Right.
And I'm really big on holding our industry to a very high standard. Like, there's a certain way that things need to go.
And unfortunately, it's not always done that way.
It's not always done that way. But, you know, like all of us holding ourselves accountable to like the things that, you know, like this needs to be treated like a business and it needs to be treated like a full-time job.
Right.
So I am, I don't want to say hate, but
Strong word.
I strongly dislike part-time agents.
I agree.
I think you're doing a huge disservice to your clients
Mhm.
if you are 1 foot in and 1 foot out and not really like diving into this as a career, because these people are depending on you for the biggest transaction and the biggest purchase that they'll make in their entire life.
100%, especially first-time buyers. I'll always play devil's advocate. There is the caveat, right? There
Mhm.
are those part-timers that are just still trying to make ends meet while they go full-time.
Sure.
But then there's
Sure.
the part-timers that we're
There's
talking
gotta
about.
be a jump off
There's
point,
the
though.
part-timers that we're talking about where it's like, I'm just going to dabble and just do it on the weekends.
Yeah.
That shit does not fly.
It doesn't work. Like, if you can't devote the time to show your clients properties, to, you know, schedule around their schedules when you're listing properties, to, you know, be there to actually do all the things that need to be done in a timely manner, you're doing a disservice to your clients.
For sure.
So it's an industry where like there aren't any like real rules and structure as far as like how many hours a day you need to commit to it, but your clients need you to commit to it.
Right.
So if you aren't able to give them that, like, I don't recommend that agents get into the industry unless they're able to commit at least 40 hours a week.
And
to
have an
this.
exit strategy from their part-time.
Yeah, have an exit strategy from part-time, but 40 hours a week to this business, and know that you're not going to probably make a paycheck for at least 3 months, but plan for 6.
100%.
Just in case.
For sure.
So, like, being able to devote that time to it, though, you won't need 6 months. if you're able, like the process that I give my mentees, if you're following it, you will be in transaction in 3 months. There's no way you're not.
The important thing to take away there is the ones that aren't are the ones that are not fully committed to it.
Right.
What you could be putting in 40 hours of bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a difference between being busy and being productive,
Yeah.
right? So obviously we talk about it all the time. Show us your calendar, we'll show you your success. Show us your
Right.
commitment, we'll show us your future, right? Show us the people you're engulfing around and being presently engaged around, and we'll show you your future success.
Totally.
So I think that's an important thing to touch on, right? Because again, going back to how well you run the mentorship program and how quickly people are starting to succeed, which is great for
Yeah.
them, for the team, for you. Obviously, there's that whole component to it. So as we kind of go through that process, obviously everyone has their own way of finding certain teams or
Right.
homes. There are people that brokerage and team hop every 6 months.
Mhm.
Obviously, doesn't fully pan out for them.
Yeah.
there are
They think
people-
that it'll be different somewhere else.
Grass
like,
is always
you know,
greener, right?
Yeah.
There are those people where they find their home and they feel like they never need to leave. I'm one of
Mhm.
them.
For sure.
I was grateful enough and lucky enough to be introduced to Dean and Afro.
Yeah. This is your first out the gate, right?
first out of the gate
Yeah.
via Allie.
You saved yourself like 7 years.
I did have about 4 other conversations with people on a call.
Mhm.
Each time coming from hospitality, coming from leadership roles myself, and
Yeah.
knowing who I should stay away from based on tonality, based on conversation, based on expectations, or based on boss
Mhm.
versus leadership mentality. As soon as I met Dean and Afro, I was like, I don't care whatever else you have to fucking say. Just
Yep.
tell me where to sign. And
Right.
I'll come home and never leave. And I've been here now since January 2021, and I don't need to leave, right? There's a lot of people
Right.
here that don't need to leave. There's some what they want to go off and do their own ventures, so on. That's great. That's
Mhm.
cool. In terms of finding a home, you found DAG, right?
Yeah.
DAG is
It
worked
took
out.
me a minute to find them.
Took
though.
you a minute. It
I
takes a lot of
stalked
people.
them for a year and a half before I joined the
So
team.
so great. So tell me a little bit about that on how you came across DAG, and
Yeah.
when you finally were presented with the opportunity, you were like, "This is it."
Yeah. So I started on that team, and then I went solo, and then I was doing okay solo, but I knew that I needed something because I was new to San Diego.
Mhm.
So I thought, you know what, let me just get on a team. But I decided to switch from Keller Williams to EXP, which is like a natural progression, Keller Williams to EXP.
Right.
And then it was kind of just the same exact thing, like copy paste. Now it's a cloud brokerage instead of being brick and mortar, but it was like, okay, what is this?
What does that mean?
And then so I was like, okay, I'm going to join a big team. So I interviewed with like the top 3 big teams at EXP in San Diego. I won't name names. And I joined one. So
don't need to. You're good.
don't need to name names. But like, everybody promises you the world. Like, oh, you can do 40 transactions a year. You can do 50 transactions a year here, and this is how. And basically, all you have to do is go out and shake hands and kiss babies, and everything else can be handled for you. And that's not the case.
So it's a typical case of overpromise, underdeliver.
Yeah. So that worked out for about 8 months. And then I was like, I'm just, you know what? Like, there was issues, and I was really Zillow was my bread and butter.
Mhm.
So I was like, well, why don't I just go solo and pay for Zillow leads then?
Yeah.
I don't need a team. And so 2021, that was a great year to do that. Like, I was
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
back to the ball and stage in real estate though, and that was a great year for me. But then 2022 came around, and that was a tough market again.
Mhm.
Like, the interest rates had started to climb up, and it was like, things
We're out
were-
of the COVID man. Shit's changing.
yeah. But I had met Dean and Afro in 2021, and I was still just too burned from the last big team that I was on. And this is like even bigger team. Like, this is like times 3 of that team. And I was like, I like you guys. If I ever go back to a team, like, this is the culture. This is what I would want to be around.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I will do. And so I just watched on Facebook and on Instagram, everything that they were posting and all that. And I was like, oh, I love them, But I wasn't
It's so hard
ready.
not to love them.
It is hard, yeah.
Yeah.
No, because they're really just
They're real.
real people.
Yeah, that's
it's just, the misfits of real estate, if you want to call it that. But
From a more politically correct way, what I tell people is we're very unorthodox in the best way possible.
yeah, but that's how real people are.
Yeah.
There's no pretentiousness. There's not this I sell all of this real estate.
Yeah.
Like, they don't take ownership of your deals. Like, they're not even on the transaction.
No, not ownership
No.
of the deals, the units, or the volume.
Yeah.
And there's no
They-
secret sauce.
Yeah.
We all collaborate collectively. The contribution to the team, it's
Yeah.
tenfold from what I've heard and seen, and obviously,
Yeah, and that's the collaboration piece. Is I don't care what brokerage or what team or whatever you're on. This is the only time where you walk into a room and people are like, "Oh, do you want to know how I do this? I'll share it with you."
Mhm.
Every time.
Every time.
Time. Like, "Oh, this works for you? Tell me how." Yeah, here's everything. When everybody talks about that, that's how it's going to be. Oh, once you're in my downline, I'm going to give you my whole secret sauce and all this stuff. No, you don't.
only if you're in my downline.
Yeah, you don't need to do that. Like,
No.
everybody walking, like, in this team, like, they might not have a direct, like, like, I'm going to make money off of you to
Right.
help you. They just genuinely want to. Our culture here is
And it's funny, right?
it's so much different.
I always say it's unfortunate, not necessarily unfortunate, but I have to say I'm always going to be biased because it's all I know.
Right.
But it's all I know for a reason, right? Worked in hospitality management for 9 years, ran teams of 250 people, ran departments of $20 million. So I know bosses, I know leaders, I know culture.
Yeah.
People talk about culture, they don't have fucking culture.
Right.
You don't know what real culture is like until you experience it. And what I always
Yeah.
talk about here, being at the head of the growth component of the team, I joined the team, I was a 20th agent. A year later, I took over the growth of the team role, and we were at 45 agents. We grew to 135 in 10 months.
Which is wild.
Fucking stupid,
Yeah.
right? The retention,
That's such
the
like-
retention is where I'm prideful. Our retention is
Mhm.
about 85-90%.
Yeah.
We're at
Which,
it-
I
we're-
mean, when you're talking mega teams, like, there's almost no way to not have a revolving door
For
a
sure.
little bit.
For
Like,
sure.
it's just how the system runs.
And it always will be.
Yeah, but, like, there's really not here.
And it goes back to where I'm prideful about the retention is it says a lot about the team, right?
Mhm.
Because if that culture piece wasn't there and everything else wasn't there, that retention would be 20-30%, which
Totally.
most teams have.
Yeah.
Right. So, in terms of obviously, so going back to Met Dean and Afro,
Mhm.
how did it transpire to you actually coming in to meet? And you're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, so, like, at the beginning of 2023, I was like, okay, something's got to change.
Yeah.
Something's got to give. Like, 2022, I devoted to, like, since the market was like crickets anyway,
Mhm.
I was like, I needed a break. I was feeling that burnout.
Yeah.
So I was happy to have that, but I knew, like, starting 2023, like, it's time.
Mhm.
So I just hit up Aphrodite and I was like,
Hey, girl.
hey.
I'm ready.
And she was like, oh my God. Like, come sit
It's
down with
about
us.
fucking time,
Yeah,
Crystal.
right. Yeah, no, she was like so happy and I was happy. Like, it was just,
This worked out.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's
so-
exciting to hear. And one thing, again, right, talked about it early on in the show, and is one thing that we're big proponents here as a team is all the incredible and inspiring women on the team. Obviously, all the
Yeah.
dads, all the daddies and zaddies.
yeah, you know what? It's funny that Dean is on the door, but Aphrodite runs it.
Yeah, she is definitely the queen, right?
And she is, but you know what I love is, like, there's a couple, like, female leaders in our industry that do, like, big numbers.
Right.
But they tell you about it.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, I do this, and this is my numbers, and this isn't my brokerage's numbers. And Aphrodite will never. Like,
Yeah, honestly, I don't.
she doesn't even like it when you tell her that she's a badass. She's like,
Mhm.
stop. Like, no.
It's the coyness, right? Because at the
Yeah,
end of
she
the
doesn't
day,
want this. She doesn't want this.
And that's what makes them great people. And it was funny. One of our holiday parties a couple years ago, my friend was, well, my roommate, my friend was one of the events, right? He was doing like the photo booth, and went up to Dean and Afro. I was like, oh, he said you guys are like the best boss ever. And Dean's like, don't ever fucking call me boss again. I hate it. I don't like being called, because they're not.
Yeah.
They're leaders, and
Yeah.
it's super
Well,
important to
and
point that out.
that's the thing is,
Is like, she'll light up. You can see her light up when she talks about the team.
yeah, 100%.
When she talks about, like, agents on the team and what they do. She's never like, oh yeah, look at how
Yeah.
badass me and Dean are. No, it's like, my agents this, look what they do, look how awesome they are, look at all this stuff, because, like, that's what it's about.
like,
And the
true
amount of-
leader.
The amount of times I've seen them get emotional talking about the team,
Mhm.
that's when you know it's real, and there's no.
Yeah, there's so much passion behind
I
it.
know.
So being one of the incredible women leaders on our team, obviously a wife and a mother as well, talk to us a little bit about how you try to bring that harmony to the home life and the work life of being all those things.
I think that's something that all of us really like struggle with.
Mhm.
My kids have like, I've been in this industry for the past 8 years now. Like my kids have been door knocking with me. Like
Putting out open house signs.
No, yeah, there was this one time that James, I had both the kids with me because like when you door knock with your kids, people open the door.
Oh, yeah.
Like they don't think you're there to sell something.
Trick or treat.
They're like, you got the dog and the kids and all that. Like, okay. And so we knocked on this one door, and the elderly gentleman that lived there was like, I'm not going to sell my house. Like, I'm going to die here. Like, this is it. You know, and then he talked with me for like a good 15 minutes,
Mhm.
and then, you know, we walk away, and here's James, and he's like, this is a really nice house to die in. He's so sweet.
That's amazing.
But that's like all they've ever really known is like me being
Yeah.
in real estate. So it's been very normal for them, but it is a sacrifice.
For
Like
sure.
showings happen, like real estate happens on the off times of everybody else's work schedules,
Mhm.
because that people who have jobs that can afford houses are working 9 to 5.
Right.
So nights and weekends is when a lot of real estate happens. So it's definitely it's a hard thing to balance,
Mhm.
but you know, like having a solid partner is kind of like the only way to get around that.
And that's what, you, Kelly, Jeanette, Christine, that's what everyone, and Lindsay, that's what everyone continues to say, which is amazing to hear, right? Shout out to all the hubbies.
Yeah,
out
shout out to
there.
the hubbies.
And then shout out to all the wives that have
Yeah.
hubbies on the team, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing to
Yeah,
see.
they hold it down. Like
Yeah.
they have to, and it's appreciated. But I think that, you know, they're obviously benefit. So you know, that's what a team is about.
Yeah,
like
for sure. The
you
partnership.
do this and then I'll do this, and you know, we'll meet together when we can.
It's the
but
partnership, right? That's
yeah,
definitely
you
super
have to
important.
have it.
For
Like
sure.
otherwise, you know, when it comes to kids, it's like
It's tough.
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot can go wrong, right? So with your journey, you've been in real estate for a long time, right? Obviously, going back to buying your first house at 21.
Hmm.
You can look back at 18-year-old Crystal. She's sitting right in front of you, and you have one thing to tell her from an advice perspective.
Hmm.
What's that advice right now?
Get into real estate sooner. Seriously, like I remember I read Rich Dad Poor Dad
Mhm.
at 19, and I was like, oh my god, I need to buy a house. Like I'm not gonna rent. Like
Yeah.
the way to build your portfolio, like it doesn't need to be flips. It doesn't need to be, you know, any of these crazy like things. Just like buy a house whenever you can afford to buy a house. Sit on it at least, you know, 5 years or whenever the market looks like it's, you know,
Mhm.
like good. And then figure out what your next move is. Like move out of that
Generational
one,
wealth.
take your equity, put it into rentals, like just slow, like it doesn't need to be this like get rich quick kind of
I
thing,
know.
which really like can entice people, and you're like, how am I ever gonna like how am
Right.
I ever gonna get here?
Because a lot of people look at it as I need the quick buck quick. I need to do
Yeah.
all these crazy investments. You don't. You just need to start.
And I came from nothing. Like my parents didn't have money. They were really super hard workers. My dad was a semi truck driver. My mom cleaned people's houses for a living. Like
Mhm.
they owned their house, so I knew that like that was something, you know,
For that you want.
that I wanted, but I didn't realize like there's next levels and there's extra levels to it if you're smart.
For sure. And,
And
it's,
the smartness is just waiting on that money. You look at that equity and you're like, ooh.
Yep. And
I
it's a
want
long
it.
play. It's a long play,
Yeah.
right? And we talk about it all the time. And unfortunately, a lot of people. I hate the person that's. It's always a good time to buy. No, the
Yeah.
fuck, it's not.
Not always.
It's circumstantial for each individual person.
Yeah.
And what I often tell my clients is, hey, if the circumstance allows for it, if the numbers make sense, if you're willing and able and capable of doing it, you
Mhm.
100% should.
Yeah.
If those things don't line up, then obviously no, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of being in a position to do so, which not a lot of people in the world or even America can do.
Yeah.
But when you have that opportunity, that's how you change the generational wealth for your family, which you've obviously done.
Yeah.
So kudos to you there.
Thank you.
Great. So
Yeah, it's one of those things, like especially here in San Diego, it's so hard for a first time home buyer to buy a home, a
Mhm.
house
right.
out of the gate.
For sure.
Like you have to start with something, probably a condo, and then like now at least, even if real estate stayed flat, you're at least paying something off.
Right.
And it's a forced savings account.
Mhm.
So even if the market went to shit, like unless you're going to sell, don't look at your equity. Stop looking at Zillow. Stop looking at all these.
Stop looking at Zillow.
Just stop looking at it.
Just let it ride.
Yeah, because eventually it's gonna come back up. It always does. Like just look at any facts and figures. Like
Yeah.
that's what happens. And since I've been in the real estate industry in 2016, I remember like my first week being in the office and the team leader of the Keller Williams ran like up across my desk and was like, "Oh my God, Gary Keller just said that the real estate industry is about to crash and it's going to happen so much faster than it did in 2008." And I was like, "Oh no."
What now?
How am I supposed to help people buy houses when you just told me it's a bad idea?
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
It's a knee-jerk reaction.
It was like, I don't know, they called it, like, because Trump was getting to office, they called it the Trump bump. Like, never mind, there was a planned crash that was going to happen, never happened, all that stuff. What I learned is, don't listen to the noise. Like,
Turn the fucking news off.
Yeah.
Pay attention to only what suits your needs, wants, and
Yeah.
goals, and how it works for you financially.
yeah, well, I mean, we're in an election period again now. Interest rates are high. We have high inflation and all of those things going on. But, like, this run in the real estate market wasn't built like the last one in 2009. So what's going to crash the real estate market when the average homeowner has over 50% equity in their house? They have really good interest rates, so they're not like excited to leave that for anything. Like, just because housing prices would come down a little bit doesn't mean we're going to get this inventory. Where's it going to come from?
Yeah, exactly. Where's it going to come from? There's absolutely no inventory, especially, right? Let's focus on micro, right? We talked
Mhm.
macro, nationwide, micro, San Diego, micro, Linda Vista.
Yeah.
Right? So
Right.
obviously the contributing factors here is one, we're now the most expensive city overall in the country
Mm-hmm.
in terms of inflation, gas, property taxes, like the whole nine.
Everything.
We're top 5 in the country in rent, which is
Mhm.
stupid because mostly everyone's rent is paying a
So
mortgage.
San Francisco, San Jose
Exactly.
people moving down here.
And we have absolutely dog shit inventory. So if you look
Yeah.
at a micro market, you can look at macro nationwide. It's a lack of education.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, all we can do is continue to try to educate. And that's all
Yeah.
we can do.
Yeah, because like you just don't know. Like, you can sit on YouTube and you can watch all these people telling you like, oh, this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen. Honestly,
Nobody knows.
if you ask me, it's gonna be if the real estate industry goes down, it's because the entire economy
Collapse.
collapsed,
Right.
and it would start with the stock market.
For sure.
There's no way the real estate industry does it because it's not possible.
And everyone looks at it like, okay, there's no restrictions or guidelines or anything in place. Like everything's tenfold compared to what it was back in 2006 or
Yeah.
2008.
I mean, if people lose their jobs, that they just flat out cannot make their mortgages anymore,
Mhm.
then like that would be a thing. But that means like there's other things that came down the
Right.
road.
Economy needs
caused
to
all
fall
that.
apart, and there's no signs of that necessarily happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Which is good. Well, one thing I always like to ask, because we know it's super important here, we know it's super big.
mhm.
With the whole DAG Life component, we love to be different in the
Sure.
best way possible, but we also love to talk about and continue to kind of push the knowledge and component of legacy. It's a
Mhm.
big thing with Dean and Aphrodite. They tell us about theirs all the time. We talk about it as a team. We talk about setting up everyone's life for future success, whether it's personal, professional, business related, right?
Mhm.
So in terms of legacy, we all have our own perspective. We're talking about Crystal and her family, you and your family down the road, when all is said and done, when
Mhm.
hopefully there's more done that's been said, right? Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
And you're at the end of the road and you want to look back on your life and be proud of it. What do you want that legacy for Crystal to be?
When I think about that, I think about my grandma, and she was a business owner, and I knew that a lot of people knew her,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't realize how many people and how much impact she had on people
Mm-hmm.
until she passed away. Like that, like she was a Catholic, like Orthodox Catholic, and she would bring mass to people. You know, she was very involved in a lot of different aspects of the community, and that church was like packed more than any Sunday service ever was. There wasn't even room for people. They were standing in the back, and it was a big church.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
It's very eye-opening.
But it's not because I want that like clout. It's that like
Impact.
she touched so many people. Like they had something that they were like, oh my gosh, they had a story. about something that she did that she helped them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like if I could just even just a little portion of that, leave the world a little better than I found it.
I love
You know,
that.
be involved in my community. That's really important to me now. Like, I want to get more involved in my like local neighborhood that I moved into in Lemon Grove,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, just support that culture. There's a lot of really cool things that go on, and people don't even know about it.
I love that.
And yeah, just
Try to
shedding a
make a
spotlight
difference.
a little bit. You know.
I love that it's super powerful. Obviously says a lot about your grandmother, so hopefully
Yeah.
she's resting in peace, right? Obviously
Yeah.
she touched
There's
a lot
no
of
way
lives.
she's not.
She's more than likely very proud of you. So
yeah.
it's amazing to kind of see, and hear a little bit more about how your journey's transpired. And one thing that I talk about a lot is always saying, if I can positively impact at least one life a day,
Yeah.
I'm doing my job as a human being.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because at the end of the day, fulfillment's going to come from the impact you have on other people. And it sounds like that obviously a huge thing that you're looking to do, especially when it comes to like the mentees and mentorship program. So can't thank you enough for joining me today. It's
Thank you for having me.
been a blast. It's been fun learning a little bit more about Crystal and her journey. And I'm excited to have you on again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you guys for checking out another episode of Dag Life Podcast. See you next time.